If you type in YouTube, how to fix posture, you'll often find chin tucks and neck stretches and pec stretches. And this is all for the common goal of getting someone more upright. But to truly fix posture, I think we all miss one step. The first step when it comes to changing posture is identifying your beliefs. What are your beliefs as to what good posture is? Normally, most people define good posture as military upright posture. Similarly, most people define bad posture as hunched over, more rounded over posture. The thing is, when someone is too upright, they're going to have just as many problems as someone that's too rounded over. It's not one posture that's good. It's when we have the ability to move in and out of varying postures all day long that equals good posture. In other words, when someone is stuck here, they're going to have dysfunction. When someone is stuck here, they're going to have dysfunction. And when someone is stuck here, they're going to have dysfunction. It doesn't matter where you are. It matters how you are. When you are stuck in a posture, it turns to a pattern. The more you show your body that pattern, the more you start to fall into it. This creates a posture. So when it comes to fixing posture, we need to change our belief that the end goal is here. So that means that the exercises that we choose shouldn't just get us here. They should get us here. They should get us here. They should get us here. We should be moving and rotating. So when it comes to fixing posture, that's the mindset that we want to start to have, especially if we want to get long-term results. Now that we have a different belief system, I want to bring to your attention something that a posture does. Think about something that you do 23,000 times every single day, breathing. Now think about our main breathing muscle, the diaphragm. The diaphragm is located just under the rib cage. And essentially, we all have different angles, positions, and stiffness of this rib cage. That is going to directly influence the ability for our diaphragms to work efficiently or not. Now, you are actually already familiar with an efficient way that the diaphragm works. Think about it. If you're running and you get tired, what do? We go down here. Why? When we go down there, the rib cage comes down, the diaphragm domes. Think of it like a hot air balloon, it domes. That is when it has a mechanical advantage to work in an efficient way. So, this is why we do this subconsciously. If I said, go into extension, this is going to lift the rib cage, flatten the diaphragm, and make it so it has a mechanical disadvantage. AKA, this is going to make it harder to breathe. We lift up the flared rib cage. What does that remind you of? That's a military upright posture. This is what we used to think was good. So is this really good? It makes it hard for us to breathe. We overwork our back. We have this extension tone. So my point is that when it comes to fixing posture, we also need to address breathing. We often skip to those things that I mentioned before, chin tucks and stretches of the pec. We're just doing things on the extremities. We need to go to our foundation. We need to put the rib cage and the pelvis in a good position, and we need to learn how to breathe in different positions. That way, when we do the 23,000 times per day task, breathing, we can do it in different postures. That's how we learn to get out of a pattern. So we can go in a hook-lying position to help improve position, and then we can use our arms to start to challenge the ability for the diaphragm to work. This is really nice because the ground gives us a reference to know that we're in the right position, and then we can really challenge and push it. So if you have a posture that is more arched, then we can work on a slight posterior pelvic tilt. From there, we want to exhale to get the ribs to come down. Then we can reach the arms as we are going through our breaths. What does that reaching do? The reaching is starting to flex the spine, aka bring you through a position that your body's not used to. If you're used to living in this military posture, we need to start to introduce flexion, rounding over, but while respecting and being aware of breathing. Conversely, if you are already more rounded over and more in that hunched back position, let's start to work on getting the pelvis in a good position with a slight posterior pelvic tilt, or maybe a little bit of extension depending on if you're super rounded. From there, rib cage comes down. Work on maintaining that rib cage and pelvis relationship as we start to reach the arms overhead. But as if we start to lose it, we need a reset. So what are we doing? We're working on teaching the body how to maintain a good position as we're working through an extension bias position compared to that rounded over. The key here is that we're starting to reintroduce breathing with a good position of the rib cage and pelvis, and then we're using the extremities to move us into the opposite pattern that our body is typically in. If you feel that you have a relatively good posture right now, work both, right? Work the flexion bias, work the extension bias. The key is the position of the rib cage and pelvis and the efficiency of the diaphragm. So once we're feeling more confident with our breathing and position and biasing flexion or extension, we need to get intentional with the exercises that we choose. Now, this could be a very long video and we could go over hundreds of exercises, or we can talk about the principles. And that way you can apply the principles to your specific posture and pattern. Now, if you live in more of an arched back military position, we want to get cognizant as to what exercises we're choosing. And if you're a physical therapist, what exercises you're choosing for your patient to get them out of that pattern. For example, do you think a barbell back squat or a goblet squat would be a better exercise decision for someone that has a military posture? It would be the anterior load. So in general, an anterior load, when we're talking about our legs, is going to be better than a posterior load. Do you see why though? We're choosing exercises that opposes their pattern. Barbell back squat feeds it. Anterior load opposes it. Now, I'm not saying a barbell back squat is bad and a front squat is good. I'm saying for that pattern, it's good. Conversely, if you had someone that's more hunched over, if we use the same example, what's going to be the better option? A goblet squat, a barbell back squat. In this example, a barbell back squat is going to help oppose this individual's or your pattern. So in this case, that would be the better option. So I really want you to take away here the intention behind the exercise, but also not to judge exercise as good or bad. We have to know the intent behind why we are choosing that exercise. So to recap, when we want to change posture, we first need to identify our beliefs. What do you consider good posture? What we discussed is that the best posture is the one we can move in and out of. And once we can do that, people tend to live pain-free. Number 2, we need to learn how to breathe in different postures. So we discussed very, very basic breathing drills that stacks the rib cage over the pelvis and allows us to move through flexion and extension. Again, very baseline introductory. And lastly, when it comes to changing posture, we need to get intentional with the exercises that we choose. Choose exercises that oppose that individual's posture.